This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Batman happenings in the world. So sit back and relax and find out why everyone loves the Drake.
Good for them. Love the Drake.
Got to love the Drake.
I'm impressed. What can I say? I'm irresistible.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rob and Everyone Loves the Drake Comic Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Myers. Welcome to episode 86. This show is brought to you, of course, by the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. And we're also associated with Batman on Films Podcast Network at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. As I said, I'm your host, Rob, and with me today is Ryan in a very snowy-covered southern state-ish. How are you doing today?
Yes. I'm snowed in, but I'm doing pretty good.
It's funny. Usually, from where you guys are at, you're having decent weather. The grass is green outside my window. Temperature's 33, but it is beginning to feel a lot like Christmas. So this is our fourth Christmas show, but the podcast has been here 5 years, like you heard in the previous episode in 85. Every year I'm trying to find, what's something Batman that we can do, or what's something Tim Drake we can do. And as I said in a Twitter feed a couple weeks ago, this has zero Tim Drake in it at all. But yeah, I think it makes perfect sense with the animated series having just come out on Blu-ray that we will be doing a commentary track on Mask of the Phantasm. Now, I know the answer to this question already, Ryan, and I will be shocked if you say yes, but I do not believe you saw this in the theater. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
On its original release.
I remember seeing commercials for it as a kid, and specifically remember the line that the Joker has in the commercials, because I was like, oh man, there's the Joker, and it's from the animated series. But yeah, we didn't make it out to see it in the theater, and I think it was because my local town, the theater we had at the time, only ever showed, they only had the capability of playing two movies at once. As most people that know the history of Mask of the Phantasm knows, it was only in the theaters for like a week or two.
Yeah.
So we would have happened to driven out of town to see it in the theater, and it was around Christmas time, so I'm sure my parents we were doing Christmas stuff instead, so it just came and went very quickly. I did get it on VHS, and as a kid, the big clamshell version of it that had the comic book in the back, and every time we would go to a video store, I would find that copy and find the comic in the back and ask whoever owned the video store, oh, look, I found this comic in the back of this clamshell VHS. Can I have it? And I racked up 3 or 4 copies of it that way.
I've got 2. I don't know how I wound up with 2 of the small mini. Because I wonder if it came out with a DVD. I remember I have the hard clamshell like you did, and there was a comic in it. But I've got 2 small ones, and I'm, for the life of me, trying to figure out how I got 2 of the smaller ones, because I only have just the DVD release and then the VHS. So I don't know if it came with something else.
I don't know
down
if it
the
came with
line.
anything else.
I was trying to think, well, did it come with Mystery of the Batwoman? Was it paired with that? No, and it was only ever paired with Sub-Zero, and I don't think it came with the comic book either. So,
Right.
Yeah, I've got two of them. So I did see this on Christmas. This did come out on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1993, and I saw it with my girlfriend in high school, and we were 2 of 4 people in the theater. And I was just amazed that I was thinking, well, this theater's going to be full. It's going to be like Batman 89, open the door. And at first, I just heard her go, are we the only 2 in here? And then you could just see 2 people way up front. And I'm like, no, honey, there are 4 of us. So I think she just kind of went along just because her boyfriend, and it was like a stretch to like, let's go see a movie. We'll go see something on Christmas Day. And then I'm dragging her to this.
Hey, it's Batman.
It's Batman animated. And, halfway through, I was thinking, oh man, she's probably going to hate this. She leans over and she said, this is actually really pretty good. She's like, I thought this was going to be a horrible way to spend our Christmas evening. She's like, but this is really pretty good. So I think she
really is no better. I mean, that's joke's on her because the movie is fantastic. A lot of people consider it one of the best, if not the best, Batman film. So
yeah, and we're going to talk about it once we get into it here. So the way Ryan and I are watching this, we should say a little hello to Terrence. Ryan and I were talking off mic that Terrence and the O'Neills, they go into like hibernation this time of the month, and it's just really crazy to try and get everybody's schedule lined up, and Ryan and I were kind of juggling times. So hello and Merry Christmas to the O'Neills. This is, as you're listening to this is being released on December 26th. So while you're trying to, put your TVs and your VCRs, I'm only saying VCR
your 8-tracks and your Betamaxes and your Laserdisc player.
So maybe, while the kids are in the next room or whoever's doing all your stuff, you can watch this with us. So it's out on the DC Universe streaming app. If you have it there, you've got your DVDs. Ryan and I are both watching it through Vudu because it did come through the newest release of the animated series in HD. And I was glad that they upped it was like in standard definition, and then there was a little mix up in
a couple weeks later, everything got upgraded.
So that is how we are watching it. So there's not going to be a long preamble here just because the show is probably going to be long enough with the movie. So we're going to get it queued up here in just a second. We'll let you know when to start. I am actually starting the player. I'll get it paused here in just a moment. All right. So the Warner Brothers logo should be up, and technically mine right now is set at 2 seconds, 02. So if you can punch it up with it, the Warner Brothers logo should be up at you, and we will hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. And Bugs Bunny should be stepping out from around the corner.
Bugs Bunny, family entertainment. I think that's one reason why not a whole lot of people went and saw this movie, is because it had been a long time since an animated movie like this from Warner Brothers had come out in the theater, and they didn't really know how to market a movie like this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And this whole intro, this CG intro, I think this is a big reason why the film got made in the first place. I think they were showing some test footage of this CG version of Gotham City to like a Warner executive, and they were like, oh man, we have to do this. We have to make this a movie. But I love this, and this is early CG stuff, but man, it holds up, and I think that is just a testament to the design aesthetic of the animated series in general. I mean, they're trying to emulate what the city looks like, and although they didn't do the whole movie like this or whatever, I think it's a really cool opening, and this Shirley Walker's score behind this, it really gets you in the mood to watch a fascinating, Batman film. So
yeah, I'm just getting lost in the intro here.
Yeah, like I said, it's easy to do just because it's just the music and the city, but man, it's so good. And as they show the credits, like with all the people, like the way that they got this done, they didn't have a long time to make this movie. They had like a year-ish, or less.
I think they were probably pushing 10 months, if I read that correctly.
Yeah, something like that. And they broke it up, like in terms of the writers. Like Alan Burnett wrote a section, Paul Dini wrote a section. They had 3 or 4 writers on it doing different parts. And the decision to make this a theatrical release was also last minute. They had framed it in the regular, television aspect ratio, and then there was a late minute decision to make a theatrical version, so they had the movie storyboarded for the TV frame, and then at the last second they had to go back and be like, oh, how can we do this? And then they, framed it for a theatrical version. And
right. With our first entrance of Batman.
Yep. And then they got a slightly higher budget and everything, so as you can see here, like, the animation quality is just fantastic. They have they have some more room to play with in terms of the fluidity of the animations.
Yeah. I love this. The step on the table.
Yeah, he just walks over and boom. That's such a Batman thing to do.
I know many people have said before, here's our first appearance of the Reaper. The Phantasm. That there's a little bit of hint of the Reaper in there.
Right. And I think I've heard the creative folks say that was not intentional, and it just was kind of a happenstance. Really, I believe this whole story was Alan Burnett's baby. Like, he always wanted to tell this love story. He wanted to do this Batman love story, and I think it comes across as almost like a modern day type of version of some of the. It really evokes a lot of the Rogers and Englehart type stories from the 70s.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think the animated series in general has that vibe. The best episodes of the animated series kind of do. They kind of cross between that and the, Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams type stuff. But just this movie just is really timeless, I think, just in terms of the storytelling, and like, you can show this movie to anybody, even if they haven't seen any of the other Batman movies or any of the other animated series, and and they'll get it, I think.
Yeah, and it's like the story flows so well. There's our word for fluidity there. There's not a moment in it where I think the story kind of drags and like, we probably should have spent too long here.
Yeah, it doesn't really waste any time, but it's really well balanced.
And I think they say, like, chronologically, this is in kind of between season 1, season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, Robin's around, of course, but he's just not present. He's not part of this story.
And one of the other great things about this is just the music in this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember buying this soundtrack when it came out
on CD.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I've got the original CD as well. Yeah, it's fantastic. Shirley Walker and the folks involved in making the score. There's a lot of history with this that you can watch on the Blu-ray set of the animated series, but they had limited resources and time for a TV episode, but then they were able to do a little bit more with the movie, and man, they really pulled out all the stops. There's a lot of really memorable, epic orchestral stuff in this film.
I love the name Chucky Saul.
I know.
That's one of those things in some of the animated series, TV shows. Some of the bad guys, I don't think have the thugs have the best names sometimes, but this goes right up there with a very quotable film for me, like the whole Chucky Saul, your angel of death awaits.
Yeah, and his name pops up, I think, a few more times in the series. Like, I'd have to look it up, but here's her first introduction, or is it of Andrea Beaumont?
Yeah. Not the babe.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but Dana Delaney does a fantastic job in this.
Yes. Which, as fans know, she went on to voice Lois Lane in the Superman animated series. And we had a shot there too of Arthur, the
Yes.
councilman. Which I always my favorite piece of trivia. That's Hart Bachner, who also played played a big part in Die Hard, and so I can just every time I see either of these movies, I just watched Die Hard a couple days ago, because it's Christmas time, of course,
Right.
And so it's kind of funny that he shares this connection into what I consider Christmas type movies.
Yeah. Hans, Bubby.
And I think we just heard a cameo too from Arlene Sorkin.
Yes. I always forget where she is in this, and it's in this opening scene. I think this is the scene we're coming here where Bruce starts to remember the way that they handle the flashbacks in this is done so effectively with the washes and the fades, and it's a slightly little different color to give you perspective of time. I think it's just it's very beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that Batman Begins, the folks involved in that did not look at this for some sort of inspiration, just in terms of like story structure and pacing and being able to tell this narrative between present day Batman and his origins. I mean, that's one reason. That's another reason why I think this film holds up so well, because it doesn't just tell the origin. It kind of subverts it a little bit and does new things with it, but it's also definitive in its own kind of special way. And what's really clever about this is that they didn't delve into this stuff so explicitly in the animated series proper, but that's great because they can kind of do their own thing with it here. And this is kind of where the animated series starts to have its own unique, definitive spin on the lore, whereas some, before that, it could just be kind of singular episodes of iconic things. And some, sometimes, like, of course, they had reinvented Mr. Freeze and things like that, but delving into Batman's origins in this, I thought was really a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember if this came out. I think this came out before the Robin's Reckoning episodes. Did it not?
I'm almost positive that it did.
Yeah, because in production-wise, they made this film in the time that they had in between seasons 1 and 2 of the animated series.
And I like, and as you would with any antagonist and protagonist and all that, you have the different splits between the two characters of Andrea, that they both have a loss of a parent, and they have the loss of a parent in a different way, and how, spoilers, how they're going to deal with that loss.
Yeah. It's really fascinating too that, like, this isn't just like, it's not just Catwoman or whatever. They came up with this adversary / love interest. It's got these Catwoman type vibes, but man, it's its own thing, and she's like this very fully fleshed out character. I think it's really kind of ahead of its time in a lot of ways in terms of how they've structured the story with her in it, and tied her into Batman's origin like this. It's kind of incredible. I always really loved this sequence.
Oh yeah, so did I. This has a hard year one vibe from it.
Yeah. Skaz. Okay, Skaz. There's you a crook name. And I always love this too. Instead of like a bat, he's trying to scare him, but he just like barrels in. That'll scare him. And of course, this ties into it. He's just, without the Batman visage and mantle, he's just a big dude and Mr. Kung Fu, and they're not scared. And that's a kind of a great point that, Batman is rooted into this, into fear. And yeah, he can beat the guys up and he can get things done, but it's not enough to make change in Gotham on a wide scale in terms of how, criminals and crime reacts.
Yeah, and how...
Because right now he's just a vigilante. He's just one guy, but Batman can always be. If he does it right, Batman can be more than just that.
Here's our first shot of a younger Harvey Bullock.
I love this too. That they put him in there.
Just gives more credence to why Bullock doesn't like Batman or like vigilantes.
Right. That's one reason why I've always really liked Bullock as a character, because he's in the middle a lot of times between people that love Batman and people that hate Batman. I mean, he's on the side of, I don't like Batman most of the time, but sometimes he's on his side, and when he is, it makes you question whether what Batman's doing is right or not. So I've always liked the interplay, and there's some good episodes of the animated series that deal with it, with their relationship in particular, like the Killer Croc episode, Vendetta, A Bullet for Bullock, for instance.
That's a great episode.
And then, we love Nightfall here at Everyone Loves the Drake, and there's some good stuff in Nightfall too, just in terms of Bullock liking, what Azrael Batman is doing when everybody else kind of thinks he's going too far.
Right. So Batman is involved in another truck flip. Where have we seen that before?
Max the Phantasm did it first.
Yeah. And there's a Batman checking to make sure he didn't kill anybody. Well, vigilante.
Well, that's, I've never really put that part together. That's really interesting. I almost wonder if that was like a studio note. We need to show that the guy didn't get killed. But either way, I think it's pretty important to the story. And this is very Batman. Like, he just got out, kind of did his thing, but he's back the next day, like, training. And this is such a great conversation here.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying
earlier. This made
me
want this character as a full-time cast member of the Batman animated series. I'm glad she went on to Superman, but just the Beaumont character, I thought was, like you said, it wasn't a Catwoman. They could have leaned on Selena Kyle for this and had somebody else be the Phantasm, but I'm glad it kind of pans out the way that it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fantastic. And I think the fact that they use her very sparingly from this point forward is actually good for the character. I think if you overused it, it would kind of overuse the Phantasm. I think the impact would, be lessened a little bit. But, because when she does show up, it's kind of like a big deal. There's some, if you want to find out what happens after this movie, they did like a Batman animated series annual, I think, and then there's another issue of the Batman and Robin Adventures comics, I think, where they kind of show what happens after this. And of course, in animation, there's the episode of Justice League Unlimited. I think it's the last episode of the series, isn't it? Yes. Is it not? Where they show where she kind of shows back up as the Phantasm, and then later on, I think Kyle Higgins wrote a Batman Beyond follow-up to this. I believe the storyline is called Mark of the Phantasm. I
want to say that's correct.
And that shows, Phantasm in Batman Beyond, and I really enjoyed that story too. So that's the handful of stories I can think of where Phantasm comes back, but they're all, it's a big deal when what does happen.
You are correct. Batman Beyond, Mark of the Phantasm. Batman Beyond 2.0 Volume 3, written by Kyle Higgins.
There you go.
There's good old Chucky.
May he rest in peace. And then, fascinating things from a story perspective going on right now, because we were just seeing, flashback stuff with Bruce questioning, what should I be? The criminals are scared of me. And now we're back in present day where we have Batman. and Batman's there, he's present, criminals are afraid of him and everything, but seeing this dichotomy start to form in philosophy between Batman and the Phantasm in terms of the line they will and won't cross in terms of what they do to their victims is pretty interesting, and the way that like we see here, like the way that the criminals in the society at large reacts to them is very interesting too, because oh no, Batman's a killer and Batman's vicious and stuff like that. He's become unhinged, and to see the way Gotham reacts to this, you see it in Commissioner Gordon and even the Joker later on, is really interesting. It says a lot about the characters.
Yeah, and this is before a Red Hood would come into existence, so you can kind of put
a lot of those themes kind of get brought up in that story as well. Yeah.
I mean, that's just weird to think in '93, like where we are right now in DC continuity and the players that are involved at this time in comics. Has Bruce been back at this point?
Well, it's Christmas '93, so it's still in the middle of Nightfall, right? Towards the end. Because is it Night's End?
Night's End,
early '94, something like that. Yeah, so we're still into Nightfall territory here. And I always love this scene too, just in terms of the visuals too. Like, it's quintessential Batman the Animated Series is very dark type of scene. And like right there, like his face is like half dark. It's in shadow. It's in shadow. And it's really moody. And the Phantasm, I always thought, was such a cool looking character too. Like based on silhouette alone, and
just the
way the Phantasm appears and disappears, and
the use of the smoke. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to see that middle part, like the backstory, like how does she become the Phantasm, and how does she do these things?
Yes,
it's one of those things where it might be less interesting once it's demystified, but I kind of want to see the backstory too.
Mob bosses are going down one by one, and Batman is...
I love this scene too.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get a better old mob boss than Abe Vigoda.
Oh yeah.
He's great.
And that was something that most people know the animated series didn't basically spare no expense. They would get some really great quality, not only voice actors, but just
film actors, or just actors, stage actors and things like that. See right there, it's crazy to see, Gordon take that stand. The Batman does not kill, period. That's pretty bold, and that shows where they are in their relationship too. Like, this isn't year one Batman going on, and you see the difference too, and you see how bad things get later on between what Gordon says here and then what happens with Batman later.
And having just talked about the passing of Nora Brayfogle not that long ago, and a very iconic cover is coming up here.
Yeah.
Which I always think this is such a striking image of seeing Batman stand in front of the Wayne's
the silhouette of the... Yeah. And I think... Oh, man. Where is it? It's coming... Not here, but... Yeah, later on we get to the monologue he has.
Oh, yeah. The first indication of who Batman might be.
Yeah, that's the little score there, man. That is perfect.
Yeah.
Man, I just always appreciated how tight this story is where there's no, I love the Bat family, but there's no Bat family in this. You have Batman and Alfred. Mm-hmm. You have your main villain here. You've got your very small core cast of characters from the police station, like Gordon and Bullock. You have, the councilman here. You have, and then Joker shows up. But in the way they use the Joker, we'll get to it, right? The way they use the Joker, I think, in this movie is really perfect. They don't overuse him, and he's integral to the plot, too.
Right. And at this point, you still have, Andrea's not even on the table. Okay, this guy's asleep. No. It's got to be him. You know, the red herring of okay, maybe it's her father. Or you can go, all right, maybe it was her dad first, and since he was a business partner of her father's.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about the dad, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I love this sequence at the
it's great.
World's Fair.
Gotham World's Fair. And, again, they waste no time or every scene matters, even if you don't know it yet. They're telling this backstory here, but of course we see this same set years later at the end climax of the film, and just it's this giant allegory of look at all our dreams and where they've gone, and then they've all gone to crap by the end of the film.
Yeah,
figuratively and literally. So
literally, yeah,
it's a fantastic storytelling, and here we go, establishing the House of the Future and things like that.
Yep.
So good, just being able to see that difference. And
there's the automobile of the future.
Yeah, I love this too. And look at the right, turbine power. Turbines the speed. I think that's very intentional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And this makes me think of the Mechanic episode of the animated series where we see
that's such
the origins of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
I love that. That's not something that many forms of Batman media pay attention to too much. It's how did the Batmobile get made? Oh, Wayne Tech. So, yeah. But I like the way that the animated series handled that. And again, this looks really great on in HD on Blu-ray. We're watching it digitally, but if you've got the Blu-ray, I would absolutely just recommend watching it on the Blu-ray.
Getting ready for this, I was eager to put in the HD, Blu-ray, and it just looks like $1 million. I mean, it looks like how I remembered it being in the movie theater, and I couldn't believe sitting in the theater and seeing some of these scenes where I was used to watching the animated series, but you could just tell they just ramped it up just a little bit more, and just how great Batman looked, and the sounds of everything just were so crisp and clean, and hearing the Batmobile zip around, it kind of blew my mind that there was that much attention to detail, audially and visually, put into this quote unquote cartoon that probably in the first 20 minutes you forget that you're watching something that's animated. You're just so invested into the characters, and just the sounds of it just kind of still blew me away.
And, I think it's just an extension of the freedom that the creative folks behind this had at the time. There was no agenda other than make a good movie, and they were unable to do what they wanted to do, and the results kind of speak for themselves, I think.
And you can kind of go back to World's Finest, when the New Adventures of Batman and Superman kind of cross paths for the first time. As much as I like that, this film really set the bar for something that was going to be even if this was straight to home video, there's a big gap between all those, like Mystery of the Batwoman, Sub-Zero, and
even any of the only film out of all of these, new DC animated films that comes close to this in terms of impact and quality for me is The Dark Knight Returns 2-part film.
I agree. And
for me, it's on the same level as this.
Yeah. And I might throw in Under the Red Hood into that category as well.
Yeah, it's really good too.
But yeah, you're right. The Dark Knight Returns, it's on par with this.
Oh, this is another like Batman. This is something Batman would do. Just confront guys like this, just right off the bat.
Still figuring out who
costume
he is,
or not,
knowing that he has to. He just can't sit by.
Yeah,
and watch.
And again, this is you see echoes of this in other forms of media, like like Bruce. Like this is what Bruce Wayne would do. Like you see it here. You see this in The Dark Knight, for instance, when Bruce Wayne does things apart from Batman, and you see this in Batman v Superman as well. Like at the beginning,
yeah, him running when the buildings are coming down. He's the only one running into danger, and same here. And taking his eye off for 1 minute. This is a great sequence. Went to all that work to help the guy that was being robbed, and the bad guys still get away. He's not totally there yet. What a performance Kevin Conroy does in this. There he's sketching his first idea.
Yeah, and a lot of times I think Conroy doesn't get enough credit for what he does too. In this film in particular, he does this really subtle difference between young Bruce Wayne and current Bruce Wayne and Batman.
And this Bruce Wayne that hasn't developed that skill yet of having to be the playboy Bruce Wayne. He's kind of the hybrid between, you can clearly tell in...
he wears his heart on his sleeve and his issues on his sleeve too, and the way he has to kind of... He's torn between this mission that he has to do and, being in love with Andrea, and he's got to make this choice. That's the crazy thing, is like most interpretations and stories and things of Batman to this point have been like, once he makes that vow, he's got to be Batman. And this movie has this thing where he's like, he has to actually, there's another point here where he has to say, am I actually going to go through with this or not? Can I be happy? Can I do this? And a lot of Batman stories kind of deal with that later on after he's been Batman, but this one is really interesting.
Yeah.
And this monologue here we were talking about before, this is Kevin Conroy said a lot of times this is his favorite, or the performance of the character that he's done that he's most proud of. I didn't count on being happy. Like
that's such a powerful line.
That's a powerful line, and and it's something that you don't see in Batman stories a lot either. And and that's why it's so powerful. And again, this way the story echoes, look how many times that things have happened around the Wayne gravesite. There's been 3 or 4 scenes like there already in terms of the moments they're kind of sharing together.
We let it go by really quick, but our first view of a guy that's probably the Joker. Well, we know it was the Joker.
Right,
Do they refer to him as Jack Napier in this series at all?
Not in this movie, but they do in the series.
Okay.
I don't even know if the series creators would even consider that canon. It might have been something that just kind of slipped through the cracks, but I'm 99% sure that in the episode The Joker's Wild, which has the Joker ruining a casino that's been built in his image. They refer to him as Jack Napier because Batman goes into the casino and starts looking through files and things of the Joker, and his name is like alias or real name Jack Napier. It's like it's not said, but it's actually it doesn't. Isn't there also an episode with Hugo Strange where he starts to say the names of the people like Harvey Dent and whatever.
I think he says Jack. And
Jack
he gets
Napier.
cut
He might
off,
even
doesn't
say
he?
Jack Napier. I don't know. I think that might be another one. Harvey Dent, Oswald Cobblepot, Jack Napier. I always loved the way that the show portrays computer stuff. They can still have this old world aesthetic, but they still find a way to make technology and computers and fun cars work. It makes it timeless in its own way, just like, Batman 89 does, for instance. And I think that's a really fun thing for Batman media to have, is like this kind of interesting, timeless looking Gotham City.
Yeah. If Art Deco just stayed, but we still got computers, TVs were still black and white.
There's still papers that you can have to sift through.
Here comes,
which is crazy because they had to do the complete opposite when they did Batman Beyond, but they still found a way to make it all make sense.
And that was a clever shot there of showing all the mob bosses, but not quite showing the whole entire picture just yet.
Right. Literally.
Yeah.
And this too, man, this scene, they find all these ways to kind of, this is like Batman Begins for the Batman animated series in a lot of ways, because they're like, well, did you wonder how he became Batman? Did you wonder how he found the Batcave? And then they kind of tie that into moments like this.
Instead of traditionally, Bruce would find the Batcave like in BVS through his parents' funeral, or
right
in Batman Begins he finds it while playing out in the
As a
yard
kid.
with Rachel. I kind of like it this way, where he's finding it as an adult, as opposed to him knowing that it was there all along.
It's kind of a big change, but man, look at that. I mean, Bats, nope, this is your destiny here.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There's some echoes of Batman Begins right there, too, through that scene. And I think it all comes down to, they made these changes or decisions, but as long as it's part of the story and makes sense and is justified, then it can work.
Yeah. And I never picked up who that was, flicking the cigarette till...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, until it's revealed to us, the audience.
Yeah. I think even as a kid, I was like, oh, there's something about this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet.
The animation's really good on Alfred's face here. It's got to deliver some unhappy news to Bruce.
Yeah, because as we know in the timeline, what has already happened here. I think that this gap gets filled in later, but by this time, left with Dad, a.k.a. my dad's dead.
Right.
The guy's, and that's the thing. At this point in time, her dad's been killed. She's basically going off to become the Phantasm, probably, and now he goes off to become Batman. It is like these two divergent paths that they're taking.
This scene,
and they both were almost happy, and now here they are. And this scene is, if you had a top 10 best Batman moments on film ever, this one would probably be on it.
Oh yeah, hands down. And I don't know if it's him putting this on and seeing the eyes, or if it's Alfred's look on his
reaction. Yeah, it's and that's when when even Alfred, who knows who this is, he knows it's Bruce, he knows what's going on. When even Alfred has that reaction to Batman, when he puts on the face on, he's like, okay, well now he's done something. That's going to have an impact.
The future does not look so swell. Yep. I mean, we're currently 36 minutes into this right now, and I feel like this is just galloping along. Like you said, there's no filler in this.
Nope.
I love that. I hate that song. Now, I always wondered, does the mob bosses know who the Joker is, or was he that much of an enigma to them as well? Like, yes, he was there with them, but they don't know. Because he does say your hands are just as dirtier at some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, they know. I love the way the Joker, like, gets introduced into this and the way he just bounces around. Like, he has this almost, like the Joker should, he has this almost, like, otherworldly kind of quality to him. Mm-hmm. And he's like a cartoon character in his own reality, but he's treated as the big deal that he should be. Like, and they treat the Joker in this film as scary as hell. Like,
oh yeah,
like
I think
even
more so than the animated series itself.
Exactly. Like, he's lethal, he's dangerous. Like, even the mobsters here, like, this guy wouldn't be here, you know, if he didn't have to be. Because he's scared to death. Salvatore Valestra. Like, it's... Oh.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's one reason... I think they've said this is one reason why they didn't have Harley Quinn in this, is because, like, they wanted to keep the Joker scarier.
Yeah,
you know, having Harley there softens him a little.
Right.
Sometimes. But yeah, I think the mobsters know exactly who the Joker is, but they're kind of, like, freaked out by him, so they stay away.
Yeah.
And I love that shot of him too, like with the hands like that. That's very much like a throwback to, like, some of the shots they would have the Joker do in the 40s.
Yeah, you're right. Because here comes the line: "Your hands are just as dirtier."
You're the only one who can take him down. Again, the Joker, like, I don't care about money. He's like, that is so in character.
About.
Yep. Oh, and this line here, "Don't touch me, old man. I don't know where you've been." It's great.
A great line.
So great.
This is a movie I throw in my repertoire of quoting, like, can I fit these in? And I've said that to people. Don't touch me. I don't know where your hands have been, you know.
And, a nice big smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the animations, the character designs of Batman in the animated series don't work any better anywhere else than in this movie. You know, like, it's all very effective.
And
I've got a killer day tomorrow. Oh.
Yeah. And then the plant of the kiss that she knows that Batman's in the room, so I'm going to let you listen to me kiss somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, that should be an indicator too. Like, she's not scared of Batman. She knows what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, this is a movie where Batman does a considerable amount of detective work as well.
Yeah. Which I think that's one of the big things. Not that he didn't do a little in the Nolan movies and did a little bit in BVS. I really want to see in a Matt Reeves movie just some real detective work. Like, I want to see.
Well, like in this, it's not an incidental. It's not just a thing that they. It's part of the backbone of the film.
Yes,
is this whole thing here? Like, why is she back? What is happening? who is the Phantasm? Yeah. And that line too. And then she just said the whole, like, the only one who I can see who's controlled by their parents is you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great line, but it's also, what she just said is also not true, because if it wasn't, she wouldn't be the Phantasm.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's another great juxtaposition between those two characters. Even if and that's the thing, like, after you see the film once, there's all this depth to it that only improves subsequent viewings. Oh, this freaked me out as a kid. This scene here, I'm just like, oh my God.
Well, the first time I saw it on that first pan of seeing the camera spin around, you go, did the Joker cut a hole and put it inside of him? And then from this shot, you can see he's clearly has it on his lap. But I remember thinking, oh my God, you know?
Yeah.
This is another great sequence coming up here.
Oh, I love this sequence.
The
and
rooftop
I think,
chase.
Yeah. And it's gone by too fast. I was trying to pay attention to the captions here, but I'm pretty sure if you're paying attention, the Joker refers to the Phantasm as a woman. I think he calls her Toots or her. Yeah.
Well,
so if you're paying attention, he knows exactly who she is, and that she's a girl.
Preset code 5, is that what that said?
Preset code 5. I guess code 5 is autopilot, follow me. And this is great too, this like low-hanging in the city Batwing. Again, like something we see in Dark Knight Rises. It's not just a fly above, in the sky thing. It's like it's built to go in between the city streets too.
Yeah, I love that in Rises. That reminded me of this.
Exactly.
It
this
can
urban
be like an urban assault vehicle without having to be, 400 miles in the air.
Exactly. I mean, that makes it make sense why Batman a Gotham City based hero would need something like that. It's not just for, flying to Egypt or whatever, or Africa or whatever when the need arises. Yeah, it just looks cool with things like police blimps and stuff. And and this is something you don't see a whole lot of in the animated series too, is Batman actually running in with the cops. I love that shot too, like Batman standing there and all the guns coming into frame. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see a little bit like in On Leather Wings, the first episode of the series.
Yeah, you
don't see a ton of it. You see some, nothing as explicit as this, where they're actually like on a manhunt for him.
Yeah. And you were talking about Robin's Reckoning, this warehouse that reminds me of the building that's being built in there.
Yeah.
But again, this has got to be another nod to Year One, where the cops are all coming in, he's having to hide.
I was going to say, it reminded me of Dark Knight Returns, where he's in the warehouse.
Oh, yeah. And something you don't see too often, I think. Yeah, we see a bleeding and bruised bat blood in this.
Yeah, I think they didn't think that they were going to be allowed to like show blood and do things like this, where you see the blood on his hands. But yeah, they do it. They were allowed, because it's a movie, I guess, to show blood and have him take the cowl off and have the blood on his face. I mean, it does have an impact, and it's one of those things where it has an impact that's part of the story, and it's good. It's not gratuitous, apart from, on the other hand, we have a lot of the now R-rated DC Universe movies that I just think are, violent for violence sake, but I don't think those are as effective as something like this.
No, it's like you said, it's doing it for the sake of like, oh, let's show somebody getting blown up, as opposed to it's written in the story, it makes sense, there's a reason why our character is bleeding. It's not, let's have him throw 2 or 3 punches and then everybody's a bloody mess and hey, we got an arm waiting out of it.
Yeah.
And this scene I always thought was interesting, with her picking him up after the two of them, again, spoilers if you don't know, they were just fighting on the roof, but she's coming to his rescue almost.
And she knows he's there because they just fought each other.
Yeah. So. But I mean that with their fight, she's going to go and turn around and save him, as opposed to letting him be captured by the police.
Well, that's just that's like the Catwoman thing, right? Like, she still has feelings for him, but she doesn't. But they're at conflict with what she feels her mission is. Yeah, you have an excellent sense of timing.
Yeah.
It was on TV.
And I was just looking, I thought maybe this was PG-13, but it's PG.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're able to push PG to its limits here.
Yeah. It's another good sequence. Getting handsy with his daughter, having to begging for their life and knowing there's no way out for the two of them. That one guy I always think looks like Rupert Thorne.
I do too, until you realize that he's a new character for this. And again, it's really interesting to be able to, because you see the past and present versions of all these gangsters too, and see what time has done to them.
And how much that they were forced out by the likes of a Joker, a Penguin, a Riddler, a Two-Face, when they were very much in control of the city, and that the quote-unquote mobsters are just figureheads, that they're not even in the real play anymore.
Right. I wonder if somebody's done a chronological fan cut of this film.
Oh, that would be cool to see.
Yeah. Actually, I think that I heard an interview or something where the studio wanted some like, there was like one studio head that like fought back, had some pushback on the story structure with the flashbacks, and they wanted to see the movie. Well, let's just try cutting it in chronological order so it all makes sense.
That sounds very familiar. I think I heard the same thing.
Yeah, and then they screened it, and they were like, "That's terrible." And so they screened it in chronological order, and then they were like, "Okay, yeah, it's not as good."
Yeah,
and it's not. It wouldn't be, but it would still be fascinating to see it put together that way, as kind of a bonus thing.
And she almost...
Batman grabs her by the arm a lot in this film.
Yeah.
If you've noticed.
That's right. Pulling her to him, twisting her around.
Don't drink that glass of water.
Yeah.
And again, there we go. I love the two, Alfred moments where he's like, oh. He has to walk out of the room.
Oh, catch me unawares there. That's our Terrence O'Neill voice right there.
And here again, it's PG, but you know what they just did.
Yeah. Long night of checkers.
Yeah.
Chinese checkers.
Yeah. She knows what she's about to do.
Yeah.
Daddy doesn't matter anymore because he's dead.
And this is the moment where she almost pulls the wool over his eyes.
Yeah.
but he's not totally sold on it. And again, it's another great delivery from Conroy on this. You can tell he's conflicted on the feelings that he once had for, and
and again, I mean, this is another kind of storyline and some plot points that we see in Batman Forever, even. Of course, not done nearly as well as this, but it's
Right.
it's the whole like, I'm in love with this person. How can I still be Batman? Should I still be Batman? But it's just kind of incredible that, you know, we've mentioned all these other movies that this kind of either influenced or is influenced by, and how much it's able to do in like an hour and 20 minutes. And this scene always blew my mind as a kid, where he finishes the mouth and then you just hear the laughter. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the Joker. Oh my gosh.
I remember laughing of the four of us that were in the theater at this, when he's in the hospital, he's just going into full-blown hysterics.
Joker gas mode, yeah.
Which that's one of the first times you really see, where we're not there yet, but the full effect of what the gas can do. Usually in the animated series, you may see the gas, but then you just get the creepy grins.
Yeah, and we've seen that already in this film, too, with Sal.
Yeah.
The bomb and all that. And I love this look of the Joker too, with the coat, the gray coat. It's very Rogers Englehart-esque.
And they made this version of the Joker into an action figure.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah. This movie had its own small action figure line that kind of was a sub tie-in to the main one, and they all had. And I thought it was really great. You know, they had a couple versions of Batman, of course, but you had this version of the Joker, and you had the Phantasm, which, if you hadn't seen the movie, totally spoiled it, because they had
right.
the mask off of her, and it showed like he could quick change it and stuff. So, which is cool, but man, it totally spoiled the movie.
I've always wished that figure. That they always did that with the female figures. They put him in this weird crouch position. I always wished that figure was standing straight, a little bit taller.
Yeah.
But another great figure in that line was the first appearance Batman, which I wish you could have seen what his costume looks like in the movie, but I remember getting that figure going, oh wow, so that's what it looked like when he put the cowl on for the first time.
Was it like a year one type of Batman?
Yeah, it's very much year one. There's no spikes on the gloves. It's a big fat, like...
And they did that for the action figure line?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm going to have to get that.
I will have to take a picture of it and send it to you. And you know what? It might even be a thumbnail inserted into the artwork for this, because it's a great figure. I think it's called Retro Batman, if I remember right.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's starting to sound familiar.
Because it comes with like his hand will spin around with like an action feature, and it comes with like a really long, like almost like BVS Robin type staff.
Yeah. That's cool.
That was a shot right there of him getting gassed. If you watch the silhouette of him plunging something into his chest.
Right.
Violently.
Yeah. And here's what you're talking about, where he's just going berserk.
Somebody else's laugh is really infectious, and he can't get himself under control until Batman comes in, where he can kind of get scared back out of it, but it's still not quite enough.
Right.
The spot that I'm going to probably start laughing here when it happens, but in the theater, I remember my girlfriend going, "Shut up." I'm like, there's only 4 of us. But when Batman comes in and he just goes, "Oh no," like the sight of like he just got himself calmed down, and the little giggling has started, like he knows that laugh is going to start again. Just, it cracks me up every time I see it. Oh no. I don't know what it is, but
it's so great. Like, and Batman knowing like what he did and interrogating him.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And this was a hallmark, too, of the animated series Batman. Something I've noticed watching a lot of the episodes over again is this Batman is not like Bat God. Like, he doesn't know everything. He's not 1,000% prepared for every single thing that happens to him. But it's not to say that he's not Batman, right? Like, he's a very balanced character, and that kind of lends itself here because he has to do detective work and interrogations and figure out what in the heck's going on, and scare the crap out of people to make change. And I think that's it's able to highlight a lot of qualities of Batman beyond just him being like a badass that knows how to do everything.
Yeah, I like
now that I say that, that's probably a reason why I like the Dark Knight trilogy Batman a lot too.
Mm-hmm. The Bat God. There's no surprise for Batman, but what I like, to touch on what you said about the animated series, that he doesn't know everything, but he can process the information quick enough to get himself to the next step without having somebody like a Green Arrow, for lack of a better hero to pick on, of like, okay, let me take this information and go back to the Arrow Cave or whatever it is and talk about it and decipher it, that in that moment Batman will take the information that he has that can make the next logical step. And
he's still the best at this. Yeah, he's still the best at it, but it's not all this Deus Ex Machina, like Batman just knows how to do everything type stuff. Like, he still has to go through things. It's
those nice. Of you fans of the show, that recently I started adding this back in for our letter section. I love this whole thing of like, I want to try to find some Batman voicemail, email thing. So I love this spot so much that I decided to put it back into our letter section.
Oh, here's what I was talking about when he says toots, because this call is meant for her Phantasm.
Yes.
God, this laugh, that's one of the best like Joker laughs ever.
Yeah, I've said before that this is one of the this is the best Joker laugh that I think Hamill has delivered. There's been a lot of great ones through the video games, but I think this is the quintessential performance of the Joker for him.
Yeah, and another really good one is Return of the Joker, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to make some comparisons too, like that also had its own companion toy line as well. It's not as good as Mask of the Phantasm's toy line was, though, I gotta say.
And to know that was the Joker, and the Joker killed her father, which is bringing all three of these characters to a head here.
Apple. Mm-hmm.
The whole baloney thing.
I know.
We didn't talk about it, but the scene that I always thought was funny, weird, peculiar, when he's with the robot the first time, pinches her cheek, and part of the cheek comes off.
And he saves it for later.
Like, save that for later. Like,
he puts it in his pocket. It's just creepy and weird. It's so great. And this, like, she's not scared of Batman when she's Phantasm, and just the thing, like, Joker knows what's up. Mm-hmm. He knows who she is. He's like, whatever, I know who you are. I know. Cut the charade. And as a kid, I was like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
And they very smartly made Stacy Keach the voice of the Phantasm in costume, which, of course, he's the voice of, Andrea's father, so it's very clever.
Yeah, and I also thought it was really good that they didn't try and pitch her voice to sound weird, that they, like you said, lined up with her father. It was definitely a male voice to throw off the suspicion, so you weren't spending the whole movie going, that sounds funny.
Well, that plus the way that they had the Phantasm up in Gotham, and then the next shot is like her flying to Gotham. That's a big, leap of like, oh, your mind just like places her there after you've already seen Phantasm in town, so it's easy to kind of rule her out if you're not paying attention.
Here comes the baloney. Which is...
I just love how Joker's trying to fight with baloney and, a mixer.
Which I showed this to a buddy of mine, and he started laughing at that scene. And he goes, isn't that a little phallic that the Joker's slapping her with salami in the face? And I'm like, oh, man, come on. I love that line. Well, if it isn't Smokey the Babe.
Yeah.
Like, the Joker has a lot of great one-liners in this.
Yeah. Again, it's like he's used so well, and every line, everything that he has is just so pitch perfect that it's not wasted at all. And just the animation, as he turns up the power on the fan, his face just like gets more and more evil grin.
This was something that when it was out on video, I was really hoping that there was a really good behind the scenes, because this would have been back in the time of, when behind the scenes parts would be in movies, that I really wanted to see like a recording session of what Mark Hamill would have been like for doing this movie. Kevin Conroy, for that matter, the whole cast. But
yeah, and this is when they recorded a lot of the actors together in the same like booth, same recording session instead of separately too. Oh, and this is so cool. Batman just jumping the bat cycle up there to to catch her. That's so good. I just imagine if this was live action.
Oh man,
I think it would work so well. I mean, I'm glad it's animation, but just this story and this kind of storytelling would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I think this could definitely be set up to make the leap from animation to live action and really not have to change a whole heck of a lot.
Right.
And here's the difference where Batman has to reiterate, what will vengeance solve?
And he's like, oh, yeah. But again, it's like these two characters, similar things happen to, and that's what she says. Look what they did to us. Almost like I became this and you became that because of what happened.
We could have had this perfect life together, but because of two horrible circumstances.
Again, I see echoes of Batman Returns in that too. It's like, let's not be these people. It would, but of course, in that, it was Batman saying, well, it's the same thing. It's like Batman saying, like, don't do this. And then she just has to be like, nope, I've made my decision here.
Little WB placement logo.
I know, I was like that.
This, I always thought was funny. The Joker inside a building and it just kind of bebopping around. But this is a Clash of the Titans, Godzilla versus King Kong with the buildings and they're destroying cities. I think it's kind of like the juxtaposition is really clever in this between the two.
Again, blood.
Yeah.
Batman kicking Joker in the face, blood coming out and his tooth coming out, and him being toothless for the rest of the film. I mean, it's pretty awesome. and with the impact, there's such an impact to it because of the up in animation quality. Like you feel that, and again, these razor blade drone helicopters just chopping Batman to shreds. And I love this too, just Joker escaping on a train, dancing around. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's thought like 10 steps ahead, like he's got this whole thing planned out.
I want to say these are the same planes that are used from the Christmas episode, where
you'd have to look it up.
They're in a toy warehouse, and where Robin goes, "They don't call you Batman for nothing."
It's similar, but and again, Batman punching it so hard that is like it's ripped his like knuckles to shreds and is bleeding. Like it's pretty insane.
That was always a cool thing I liked, is hearing the cackling Joker laugh in pitch.
Right, the audio design of this. Yeah.
Can't tell where it's coming from. You don't know where he is.
And
this was a toy coming up here with the Joker, with the jetpack.
Right, I had this one.
Yeah.
I had the jetpack Joker.
And that figure actually got reused twice outside of the Mask of the Phantasm line.
Mm-hmm. That's not surprising. Boom. And then again, this, like, Batman freaking the Joker out when the Joker's like, if you don't let me go, we'll both die. And showing the Joker scared, like, you don't see that too often.
No, right. And for the Joker to say, what are you doing? You're crazy. That's almost like, I wouldn't do this. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy, especially if you view this movie in a vacuum. It's like, in terms of Joker, it's like, nope, whatever happens, it ends tonight. Mm-hmm. And to see him get taken away by her is like, it's pretty crazy.
The second character to say goodbye, my love, be Talia.
Oh?
Or I guess she would say my beloved. I remember this in the theater was so loud. All the explosions.
I'm sure it's very powerful.
Oh my gosh. And again, there were only 4 of us in the theater, so there were no other bodies to absorb all the sound. But yeah, when everything was on fire and just rumbling, I could literally feel my seat rumbling. I don't know if they were just like, they just cranked it up because there were 4 of us in there, but...
Yeah. This is probably one of the best Joker laughs, Joker moments, like, in the animated series history right here, where he just laughs as he's been taken away. It's great. Mm-hmm. That
is the funniest thing for him, that all of this chaos is going around, and it's not Batman that's going to take him out. It's going to be this chick, Didn't see it coming, and that's what was so incredibly funny to him. Now, the color palette in this is just beautiful. All the oranges and reds and browns, and there's Batman in his dark blue. I think this is a great moment from Alfred in his speech.
I don't think she wanted to be saved. I mean, there's a piece of perfect Alfred advice. And it's it sums up like the whole movie, like this whole little piece here.
And the parallel.
It's one of the best Alfred and Bruce like little moments.
Yeah. And what he's saying is that everything that Bruce is doing, Bruce is actually wanting to be saved. Yeah, he's wanting to save Gotham, but he's wanting to save that. And
that's so powerful, because that is the line that Batman draws. Like, he has a mission, and that is the mission. And if he went over it, then would there be a mission? Would there be or would there be a Batman? Yeah, it's like the whole point of the movie.
The scene's really good. I think it's a great line from her coming up. I am. And very much like the opening sequence, the end sequence is just beautiful.
It's one of the best. Look, the animation, the score is incredible here, and the sound design. Like when he fires that grappling hook out, and you just hear it in the bat signal. It's just so quintessential Batman, and it's completely earned. Yeah, it's just fantastic.
I love it. It sounds so good in the restoration, just hearing, like you said, the grappling hook go out and catch on something.
Yeah. Boom. And that's it.
Wow.
Man, what a great movie.
So this was something I was telling Terrence and Ryan. I wanted to do something nice and easy, just sit back on. Besides some of the fun things to do at Christmas time, you get a whole bunch of movies or whatever, or you just kind of start looking at the stuff you've got. And I thought maybe I ought to do that on this show, since it did come out on Christmas Day in 1993. Now, what I did want to ask as we're wrapping this up, did you, while the credits are going here, did you get to go to the Phantasm event to see us on the big screen?
Nope.
Wow.
Unfortunately not. I had tickets for it, and it was sometimes when they do these things, they do it for like 1 or 2 days. Like when they did this year, they also did the Superman 40th anniversary screening. They did it on like 2 or 3, I think, different days. But Mask of the Phantasm was 1 day only. I had my tickets for like 7 o'clock, and then we ended up having a torrential downpour thunderstorm thing here, and I was headed towards the theater, driving in this awful storm, and the traffic was so backed up that what should have been a 15-ish minute drive was going to take like 45 minutes, and I was going to miss the movie regardless, so I had to just turn around and go back home.
Oh, wow.
I felt so gutted. It was like I was so excited to see it in the theater, and it just didn't work out. So,
guys, I thought I remember either you said on Twitter or you had pictures of your tickets. Am I remembering that right?
I'm pretty sure I at least tweeted that I bought the tickets and I was going to go.
And I wish they would. I think I can understand why they don't do them on a Friday night or a Saturday, but this was on a Monday.
Yeah, Monday
right?
Monday is like the least busy day of the week for any theater.
So that way they're not going to lose the revenue on a Saturday when
and they'll have a free screen.
Yeah.
I
think the last one we went to was The Killing Joke, and I really wanted to go, but again, it was a busy Monday for us, and
yep.
Until I said, I got to see it back in 93, and my wife is like, well, you did get to see it originally in the theater, but but it was just, it wasn't going to work, and
you didn't get to see it.
I didn't get to see it either. I didn't get my tickets because I thought the theater was also the closest one we have to us that was doing it was like 45 minutes away, so we're going to be pushing an hour after getting off of work. It had to be, really quick, and
I'm going to have to. I know, I just had the Super Mario Brothers screening here in Raleigh on Friday, December 7th here, 2018, and got to know some of the folks from Alamo Drafthouse here. I'm going to have to talk to them. Maybe next year we can get some kind of a. What I really would love them to do is some sort of like a Batman Fest, because it's 2019 is Batman's 80th anniversary.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah. So if they were able to do some kind of crazy all-day Batman thing where we could have Mask of the Phantasm, Batman 89, and 60s movie, like there's all kinds of stuff that they could do, and and people would totally show up for it. So maybe I could convince somebody to show all the movies in the theater.
Really quickly before we let you go here, how did the event go for Super Mario Brothers? 25 years,
25th,
dude.
yeah.
Jeez.
Just like Mask of the Phantasm. Both of those are 25 this year. It went great. It was a fun time. The whole place was pretty packed, and got to see our restored print of the film up on the big screen. Sound was great. Everybody loved it. Was clapping and laughing at the right times and everything like that. And we had 6 people that worked on the film show up, and we did a panel, a Q&A panel after the movie, and it was a good time. So, and we recorded it all. So, the panel and stuff like that. So it should be up online eventually.
Well, cool. I was kind of following your tweets, and it was kind of cool to see the hashtag.
Yeah, and we had props and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So glad that went well for you. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, and it's going to do it for the rest of the year for 2018. We crammed a lot in this year. Like I said, the previous episode, you got to hear the radio drama in its entirety. I do definitely want to try and launch a Patreon for next year and get things going with the website, for the podcast. I've said previously that I'll be launching a new podcast, another Everyone Loves Young Justice, with Jay Yaws. So, there'll be a second podcast from me. I know Ryan is working on a podcast, for Azrael. How's that going?
It's going. It's definitely going to happen. I just needed to clear my schedule, get some of these, other responsibilities kind of off my plate so I can focus more time on it.
And then Terrence and I are still doing Batman and Robin and Eternal, which is nice that we've got that to kind of supplement some other maybe Batman stuff that maybe doesn't fit into this show, but it's been great. Like I said, this was our 5-year anniversary, so I wanted to round out Christmas. So hopefully everybody's Christmas went well, since this is the 26th. Technically, it's the 9th for us, but you know what I mean. So from everyone here at the Drake House, we hope you have had a wonderful Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in a few weeks for 2019 and the start, if you can believe it, for Batman's 80th anniversary. And can't imagine all the stuff that's going to be coming out for that. I think we're just hearing just the very early tip of the iceberg. So with what they did for Superman, I have a feeling it's probably going to be even more so for Batman. So we will see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
And you know what?
Oh, go ahead.
So I hate to ruin your outro here, but it's Batman's 80th anniversary, but it's also going to be Tim Drake's 30th anniversary.
30th anniversary, yeah. We may have to do a little something here, and it'll be really cool that to see how Tim is treated next year. Brian Michael Bendis will be writing Tim Drake, so I know we'll be talking on it on that show, but I know we're definitely going to be talking about it on this show, and maybe we'll find we've got that Detention Comics issue to do that Norm Brayfogle had done with, and like we said, probably the only Denny O'Neil solo Tim Drake story written.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is where we'll end it, folks. We'll see you next year in a few weeks. All music and sound clips are under copyright by their respected copyright holders, so there should be no need to send the Penguins lawyers after us for ill-gotten gains, because there are none. You can get a hold of the show a few different